Alright, everybody. Welcome to Grumpy Acres. Okay, so here's what happened. So, the Arkansas Pond Fillers, whatever, the fish company, came up and we picked up our fish. So you probably saw me over at Life Done Free on their video. I was helping Bee pack her stuff, and I totally underestimated all of that. So we were told, well, I was told I needed to put some coolers in because my fish needed to go in coolers and all of that. So, okay, all right, I got that. Well, who would have thought that fish would come in probably pretty good 3-4 gallon sack, and then they were rubber band so tight that you couldn't get them off. And Bee walked me through, and she said, all right, you got to lay them in the pond, and they have to acclimate, and you have 1 hour to do everything. It was like, okay, I can do this, not a problem. So I come down, and y'all know I wear flip-flops most of the time. And so I came down, and I get each bag out of the truck and throw them in the pond. No, I didn't throw them in the pond. I just laid them around the bank to try to get them acclimated and do all of that because it was pretty cold water. And so we were, I did that, and then I was like, okay, it's time to get them out. So I tried to get the rubber bands off. Well, as you see, we have duckweed. Now, duckweed equals a healthy ecosystem. So I'm not mad at the duckweed. I'm mad at myself. So I get the bags in, and I decide, okay, it's hot. I think it was maybe 15, 20 minutes later. They're acclimated. It's fine. And so I went ahead and I tried to get the rubber band off, and I couldn't. Now, the bags are filled with oxygen. So I'm like, oh, they're going to suffocate. I opened them up. What am I going to do? And so I didn't really open it up. I got most of the rubber band off and then realized I needed a pocket knife. And so I run over to the truck, grabbed my pocket knife off my keychain, and I came in and I just cut rubber bands. And so as I was cutting the rubber bands, I was throwing everybody in the pond, you know, got them in there, just kind of poured them in nice and gently. And I started noticing as I put the last, I don't know, I think there were maybe like a total of 600, 700 fish. And so as I put the last of them in, oh my gosh, they were beaching themselves. I've never seen anything like it. They were literally swimming up and beaching themselves. And so see the little weeds in here that are in the pond, and there used to be a lot more. And I'll tell you why there's not in a minute. So as they were beaching themselves, and I'm like, holy crap. So I'm standing here, and I get right on the edge of the bank, and I'm in my flip-flops, and I get right on the edge of the bank, and I have to go in, and I have to pick these guys up. Now, I think I have to pick them up. So I'm picking them up, and I'm like, well, it doesn't hurt. If they're dead now, maybe they'll survive. So I'm chucking them into the center of the pond. So I probably spent a good hour and a half chucking them into the center of the pond. Here's what ended everything. What ended everything is I got over to this spot in the pond right here, trying to save some of the fish. And I look over to the other side of the pond. A freaking frog was eating my catfish. And so now at this point, I'm screaming at frogs, I'm screaming at fish, and I'm telling the frogs, don't eat the catfish, take the tadpoles, or the minnows. And then I'm looking in the fish, and like, quit swimming up here, you need to go back in the middle of the pond. And so I'm doing all of this, and this is taking a good 2 hours, and I get down to this section, and I see the catfish are beaching themselves. And I was like, no, this isn't happening. So I'm trying to go in and scoop everybody up, and I ended up on my butt. I fell in the pond, ended up with my butt in the pond, and I hit the dry side of the bank with the back of my head. And it's a good thing I didn't pass out. I think I had maybe a small concussion because I had such a headache, and who knows, it could have been blood pressure. I had to rest for the rest of the day. And so anyway, it was a chore. We got it done. And yes, tag, especially after your video, it was hard. You couldn't grip those bags and just rip them open. There was no ripping them open, and some of them were double bagged. And they were double bagged because the first bag had holes in them, and I was catching the holes. And so I kept telling them, like, hey, that's got a hole in it. So they had to double bag it. And so yeah, there was none of that happening. Anyway, so if you ever hear Tag say something about me mud dancing, it wasn't that I was mud dancing. Well, yeah, according to him I was, but not really. It wasn't a professional mud dance. What it was me trying to go around and save the catfish. So then, and the other fish. We got, gosh, what did we put in here? We put in bluegill and catfish. I already had some bass in here and that kind of thing. So, and sunfish and minnows. And so we put all these guys in. Yeah, I had no idea that fish just kind of go into shock lay on their side and then they get up on their own and go into the pond. But good news is no floaters. Good news is I'm not hurt. Too bad. I had a few bruises and scrapes. G was thinking I was a little bit crazy, and I showed him my elbow, and my elbow was all bruised up from when I fell. And he was like, holy crap, how did you do that? And so when I told him the story, he was laughing. And so then he asked me how my experience went, and I told her she did not laugh because she had similar experience. You know, it was just as tough for her. But for some reason, Tag and Garen just think that this is really funny. But next year, we got them beat. Now we know what we're doing. So, all right, guys, just thought I'd share that with you. This is the silliness that happens on the homestead. This is the silliness that happens between friends. So don't be upset if you go stock your pond and you end up belly up like a turtle upside down. So B had sea turtles, and I had turtles that were upside down. All right, guys. Till next time. Go live a life that's free.
Thanks, Milo.